Okay, this is chapter 10, decision making and cost volume profit analysis. Now, why do we need this analysis and what this analysis is about? Now, the cost volume profit analysis is about what's the effect on the changes in the cost and the volume on the company profit. So what's going to happen if I change something in relation to the cost or in relation to the number of the products that I'm selling or producing on the company's profit? Obviously, that will be critical factor for the making decisions and how you're gonna plan your profit. And then we're gonna consider this relation between the volume of activity, selling price, variable cost, fixed cost as a total, and sales mix. Which are the assumptions? Assumptions, we're going to do some assumptions before we start doing all the analysis. First assumptions will be revenue and the cost behave the same way. Those will be linear through the relevant range. Means sales price is going to stay the same. Variable cost per unit is going to stay the same. Fixed cost per unit is going to stay the same. The revenue will be driven only by the number of products that we're selling. Well, again, we're not changing the sales price. Variable cost per unit is going to stay the same. So that means the only thing that's going to drive the total variable cost will be number of the units that we're selling. And the total fixed cost stay the same. All the costs can be classified either variable or fixed. There's no mixed cost here, only variable fixed cost. And only the changes in activity, that means the number of units that we're selling, is the factor that affect the cost. The other thing is inventory level doesn't change, means whatever we produce, we're selling it. And if you have more than one product, that product mix doesn't change. This cost volume profit analysis is done only and only for the internal purposes. It is not done for the outsider for the company. You're not showing your cost volume profit analysis to the outside people of the company. Again, classify only by fixed and variable cost. And we're using the contribution margin statement to do that. Means that we're going to have the revenue minus variable cost is going to give us contribution margin. Minus the fixed cost is going to give us operating income. Now, this is the statement that's going to look like a statement. That will be the, once you see first calculation shown as contribution margin, you're in the contribution margin income statement. Means the sales, then you're going to have variable cost. After that, you're going to have fixed cost. The last thing is operating income. Now, the variable cost can be more than one. In our example, we're using only one variable cost and one fixed cost, but there can be more than one. That doesn't change the fact that we're going to have total variable cost at some point and total fixed cost at some point. And sales minus the total variable cost is going to give us contribution margin. And after that, from the contribution margin, once deduct the fixed cost, we're going to get operating income. Somebody's getting super excited about the cost volume profit analysis. That's great. So now, now let's illustrate the cost volume statement, the cost volume profit, that will be contribution margin income statement. Now with the numbers, again, sales, variable cost, which will be the product cost, direct material, direct labor, first, starting with those two. Then we're going to have period cost, which you see sales commission administrative expenses, but which behave as a variable. So now you see, we clearly now we not dividing by cost by the product and period, we divide it by the variable and fixed cost. And once we have the numbers as the variable cost, that's the total variable cost. We're gonna see how much is the total fixed cost, and that, and now we have how many units we're selling. So we're staying with the contribution margin. So what do we need? We need the sales price per unit and variable cost per unit. That's gonna give us contribution margin per unit. Once we have the contribution margin per unit, we already saw that the only thing that's gonna drive total sales, total variable cost, and total contribution margin will be number of the units that we selling. So if I sell 1 unit, that unit contribute $200. If I sell 2 units, that's my contribution margin from those units will be $400. So if I sell 1,600 units, my total contribution margin will be $320,000. And if I have to prepare now the statement, when I say when I'm selling 1,600 units, the sales price is 500. That's gonna give me $800,000 sales. Variable cost split by all those direct material, direct labor, sales commissions, and administrative expenses in total was $300. 300 times 500 is gonna give you $480,000. Contribution margin 320. 320. Why? Because we're selling 1,600 units, and contribution margin per unit is $200. That's gonna give us 320. Is the 320 enough to cover our fixed cost here? Yes, it is. So we have operating income. At every point, we're looking at our contribution margin to be more than the fixed cost. If we generate enough contribution margin from sales minus variable cost, that will be contribution margin. If we're generating enough of that to cover the fixed cost, we're gonna see profit or income. If that's not happening, then we're gonna see a loss. So to cover the fixed costs again, $200,000, we have to figure out how many they have to sell. In this case, they have to sell 1,000 smartphones. So, and that's gonna give us the break-even point. The question is, what's the break-even point? The break-even point is the point that the company generating enough contribution margin to cover the fixed cost. In other words, the company don't lose money. Don't make money, but don't lose money. If so, these guys, if they're selling 1,000 smartphones, their sales will be $500,000. Variable cost $300,000. Contribution margin $200,000. They'll break even. If they sell 1 additional unit, however, 1 more, then the contribution margin from 1 additional unit, since we cover the fixed cost, is gonna flow directly to operating income. Now, if we sell 2 additional units, obviously my operating income will be twice more, or $400. So every smartphone sold above the 1,000, we're gonna generate 200 contribution margin, which is gonna flow directly to our operating income. Tell me what you think about this.
D, Professor.
D.
Now we have a fight here. Let's see who's gonna win it. Someone says B, someone says D. Which one is the right one?
D. It's Variable.
How many D's we have? Do we have enough D's? Any confirmation? I need one independent source to confirm. I need one more opinion.
I think D, Professor.
You think D? Anyone who thinks different? Is there anyone who thinks different? So when you see this type of questions, which you not necessarily have to know the answer right away. What's going to help you? Obviously, knowledge is going to help you. And the other way is to think analytical. What means analytical thinking is to put it in the situation and see what's actually gonna happen. And the situation here is very simple. The question is, do I know how to get the contribution margin? How can I get contribution margin? Tell me. What do I need?
Sales.
Those
I need
is
sales.
variable
Okay.
cost,
Variable cost. Those two is gonna give me
contribution.
contribution margin. Make sense? After
Yes.
that, I'm gonna have fixed cost, and then I'm gonna have operating income. Right. So now the question is, what's the contribution margin? Well, contribution margin is simply sales minus variable
cost.
variable cost. Okay. So if my sales are 200 and my variable cost is 100, how much will be my contribution margin?
100.
100, right? Right away. 100. That will be equal to this one minus that one. And let's put some fixed costs here, let's say 50 fixed cost, and my operating income will be 100 minus 50, right? Simple. Now I have what I needed, correct? So now, let's see the question and possible solutions here. If the company increase, can achieve, a company can achieve increase in contribution margin. So what I need? Increase in the contribution margin, I to go over 100, right? That will be increase. Make sense? This number to go over 100. Anything less, that's not gonna. Let's see, if I decrease the fixed costs, now they're 50, right? Let's insert here this one and let's copy this one. And that will be my new scenario. And let's start playing. If I decrease the fixed cost, what's happened with the contribution margin? Did something happen to contribution margin?
No, same.
No, same. So is that help me?
No.
No. So let's forget about this. Second, selling price will decrease. So that means I'm 200. Now let's put it down. Let's put it to 180. Did I get what I wanted?
No.
No. So selling price doesn't help me. So let's say fixed cost increase. Let's increase the fixed cost. Let's make it 80. How this change my contribution margin? Did it change it?
No, same.
Same. So that doesn't help me either. Forget about this. The last thing is variable cost decrease. Let's decrease the variable cost. Did I get what I wanted?
Yes.
Yes. So what will be the correct answer?
D.
It's D.
D. Make sense? So do you need to remember always everything? As long as you know the basic and as long as you know how to get the contribution margin and how to deal with the situation, you can easily analytically come to the right answer. Can you do that?
Yes.
That will be up to you. So let's go now with the to the slides back again, and let's continue with the slides. Now we figured out why answer is D and why the D is the correct answer. Let's keep going now. Contribution margin ratio. How will be the contribution margin ratio? Well, that will be percentage, knowing that sales are always 100%. So our 100% is sales price. The question is, how much is the variable cost out of sales and how much is the contribution margin out of sales? So if you get the contribution margin divided by sales price, it's going to give a contribution margin, and that's how much we're going to get for every dollar of the sale of that item. So for every dollar that we're selling from this item, we're going to get 40 cents. So now the contribution margin will be for every unit of sales, we're going to get 40% of the selling price. And what we're going to do with that, we're going to try to cover the fixed cost. Because as long as we have the fixed cost, we're having loss. So our objective is to increase that contribution margin to the level that covers the fixed cost. So if this company increase by $100,000 from where they are, if currently they're 500,000, they'll break even. If they increase to $100,000 sales, means that 40% of that sales is going to go to the contribution margin. And since at this point they're covering their fixed cost, that means this 40% is going to flow in operating income. Proof will be from 500, we're moving to $600,000. Increase with $100,000. Contribution margin increase with $40,000, which is 40% of $100,000. And since the fixed costs are already covered, that's $40,000 gonna go directly to operating income. Again, as you can see, percentage as a percentage, contribution margin always stays the same, regardless how many units we selling. Why? Because we never gonna change the sales price and variable cost per unit. They're always gonna stay the same. As long as they're the same, the contribution margin ratio always gonna be the same. Why? Because the number of the units increasing proportionally for the both, for sales and variable cost. Let's see another question here. What's the contribution margin now?
Sales revenue minus variable A.
Variable expenses. Yep. Is there anything else? Is it possible my contribution margin to be sales minus fixed cost minus variable cost?
No.
What will be that?
Operating income.
Thank you. What is the fixed cost less variable cost? Nothing. Fixed cost minus variable cost is nothing. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you have to understand on the multiple choice questions, one of the answers always will be completely stupid. Like a 99% wrong. The other answer, there will be another answer which will be also wrong, but that will be wrong on the, let's say, on 80%. And then you're fighting between two answers which are close. It's always like that in the multiple choice questions. So now our completely stupid answer is C. And the last one is the sales revenue minus cost of goods sold. What is that? How are we gonna call it on the traditional income statement? That we did it in the first part of the course. Remember? Or you already forgot?
Gross margin.
Thank you. It's a gross margin. Good. So our correct answer is A. Let's go to the break-even analysis. Now, what is the break-even point? Again, that's the point where the company generates enough sales to cover variable cost and fixed cost, or contribution margin that company generate is enough to cover the fixed cost. Now, the process of defining the break-even point is the, again, level of activity in which total revenue equal to the total cost. Now, can be calculated or derived. How can we calculate it? Mathematical equation, by using contribution margin formula, or by cost volume profit analysis graphic. Can be expressed in two ways: as a number of units that we need to sell and total sales dollar amount. Now, when you calculating per units, that's the one of the rare cases that I'm seeing this comment here, which totally makes sense. You rounding here the number of units. You're forgetting the mathematical rounding here when you're doing cost volume profit analysis. Mathematical rounding, it doesn't apply in this situation. Why? Because in math, every time when you see more than 5, we're rounding to the next whole number. Let's see here, let's think about it. In production, okay, I'm in production. We're talking about number of units that I need to produce and sell in order to get the my break-even point. If the formula says that I have to produce 8.75 units, how many units I can sell to my clients? Again, you calculating cost volume profit analysis, right? And the formula says in order to get a break even, you need to sell 8.75 units. Now, if I'm start selling this to the customer, 8.75, let's pretend I have, say, 8.75 units sitting on my store ready to be sold. How many units I actually can sell? And how many units actually the customer is gonna buy? Any guess? Give me some guess.
8.
8. Imagine I'm selling laptops. So I have 8 complete laptops, and I have one laptop that missing keyboard. Why? Because the keyboard represents that 75% of the unit is complete, but the keyboard is missing. The question is there a customer who's gonna buy that computer without the keyboard, that laptop without keyboard? The answer is no, right?
No. Yes.
No. So that's why when you're doing the calculation here for the purposes, when you go to the units, you're rounding up for the nearest whole unit, but on the lower down, right? If it's 875, that means I need 8 units. Or you're going to the 9 units. So then you're going to the 9, then I have to produce 9 units. Make sense? So let's go now with the formula. What was the formula? Formula was total sales minus the total variable cost minus the total fixed cost. It has to be equal to 0. What that means? Total sales are sales times number of the units that we're selling. Q is the sales volume. Variable cost. Let's put here 1C times the number of units that I'm selling. And total fixed cost, total fixed cost. Once I get this to be equal, that means I'm in the break-even. Why? Because on one side I have the sales, total sales. On the other side I have total variable cost and total fixed cost. So let's see how we're gonna do this. That's a very big calculation that nobody can see, but let's see now. So what do? I have my sales price per unit, which is 500. The question is, what's the number of Q? Well, we need to go on the other side to see. My variable cost per unit is 300 plus the $200,000 fixed cost. So what we have to do, we have to solve it for the number of units, which is Q in this case. We're gonna flip the 300 on the other side. It's gonna change the number. It's gonna become a minus. So 500 minus 200. 500 minus 300 is gonna be 200, equal to $200,000. So, and we're gonna solve it for the Q, which is the number of units. Number of units will be 200,000 divided by 200. Means 1,000 units. And that's how we're gonna get it per number of units that we need to sell. Make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is the equation method, right? There's a formula method, which a formula I show you the other one, the previous class or last Sunday. The formula method is very simple. Get the total fixed cost divided by the contribution margin per unit. Done. So what do we need to chase? You need to chase the total fixed cost and contribution margin per unit. Once you have those two, you can find the break-even per unit. Now let's see with the total sales. This is how we're going to change it to the total sales. If we have to find the dollar amount that we need to sell, we have to play with the contribution margin ratio, which will be total fixed cost divided by per unit contribution margin that will need to be changed percentage. Here it has to be per dollar ratio, has to stay a ratio in order to get the dollar amount. But since we're using the same formula, break even per unit, that will be the right formula here. So the slides are a little bit off here. Let's see how we're gonna calculate it by the formula method. Fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit is gonna give you number of units. Fixed cost divided by contribution margin ratio is gonna give you break-even point in dollar amount. Those are the only two formulas that you're gonna need for your quiz too. Okay? And the last thing that left to explain is the last method that we can use for break-even is the graph method. How we're gonna do the graph method? Again, we're gonna have one graph, one line for the sales price, one line for the variable cost, one line for the fixed cost. And we're gonna see how exactly that's gonna work. Having in mind that total fixed costs are always the same. Total variable costs are always variable cost per unit times number of units. And total sales are always sales price per unit times number of units. So what drives the sales and variable cost? No, the same driver, number of the units. That's how make it so simple. Now let's see what the graph is going to show us. Which are the advantages if you're using this graph? Then you can see it right in your eyes, in the picture, where the break-even point is. And then you can understand where the area of the loss is, where the area for the profit is. And it's relevantly easy to make it. Now, what's the disadvantage? Because the actual break point not always on the plot to see. Sometimes you made the break-even point can be away out of the chart. Also, it doesn't catch how the cost gonna change if we change the activity level. And the other thing is can only be used in the single product. If we have more than one product, that's not gonna work. So let's see the graph. Now I'm gonna make it bigger so you can see it better. So this is technically the graph of the cost volume profit analysis. Now I like it. So what we can see here is first we're gonna see this fixed cost. Interesting part is even if we haven't started our sales, we already have the fixed cost. What that means is in the beginning of the month, you haven't even earned any money, but you already pay for the rent. After you pay the fixed cost, then you have to start generating sales. But there's a catch. As soon as you start selling, the variable costs start coming. So you have to sell higher than the variable cost so you can cover the variable cost and start covering the fixed cost. And that's going to continue to the point where the sales, total sales, going to be equal to the total variable cost and total fixed cost. So at this point, you cover all the rent and all the grocery. And after this point, now you can start generating some profit. And it's always like that. So now the question is, where is that break-even point? How fast I can reach the break-even point? Do I want my graph, my sales to go in this direction? Slowly, 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 slowly. And somewhere out of the chart, I to reach the break-even point somewhere here. Or I want my sales to go this way, so I can hit the break-even point as fast as I can. Which one you want to be?
Second one.
Obviously. So that's why there always at the beginning of every year, uh, there's this survey that's saying how much takes for the top executives in the world to reach the average income of the country that they're living. And do you know what the number is? How long it takes them? Again, how long it takes for the executives, top executives in the top companies to reach the average income in the country that they're living in? Now, they're different numbers, but some of the executive takes them 2 hours. So imagine this: they're going to work. Not gonna go to work. Actually, they're gonna go to January 1st because top executive uh, there's no start holidays for them. And once they go to work at 8 o'clock, by 10 o'clock they already have the average income for the average person in the country that they're living in. So that brings me the question: do you want to be average person and to get the average income? So let's bring this graph the way it was and leave it for later. And let's move to the next question. Which of the following represents how the break-even point is calculated?
C.
We're chasing per
Mm.
unit, right? Which one you say?
C.
It's C.
If I get A, what I'm gonna get
Break-even point in dollars.
in dollar amount, right? Because I'm chasing the ratio. Once you see ratio, that will be total sales. When you see per unit, you're gonna get in units. So what I need, definitely I need the fixed cost. Those are no questions about it. I need the fixed cost. But in order to get break even per unit, I need the contribution margin per unit. If it tells me sales, then I need the contribution margin ratio. Make sense?
So,
Net operating income, it's irrelevant at this point. Yes.
so fixed cost divided by contribution margin, it shows the break-even point in dollars, right?
So the contribution margin depends how you expressing the contribution margin, right? Because as you let's go back to the formula. Can you see my screen?
Yes, sir.
So now let's forget about those two. We don't have those two. Those disappeared. We don't have them. They're out. Come on. It's this one. And let's get rid of this. Now at this point, actually, let's leave this one. And let's flip this one right here. Now I can get rid of this question and I can group all those three. And let's hide them. Okay. This is the flow of the information. Sales variable cost contribution margin. Now, if I get sales, what was that? We're chasing the break even in number of units, and I know my sales have to be enough to cover my variable cost and my fixed cost. But sales minus variable cost is going to give me contribution margin. Then my contribution margin has to be high enough to cover my fixed cost. That's what I know. And once the contribution margin is equal to the fixed cost, my operating income will be zero. Now, what do I need? I need the fixed cost. And I need contribution margin. Is that going to help me now? So basically, I'm going to have fixed cost divided by contribution margin. That's the formula. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Right. But this is only words here. If we want to put the numbers, then everything changes. Because fixed costs can be expressed by dollar amount. Now the contribution margin can be expressed by dollar amount and percentage. Make sense?
Yes.
So now, and a fixed cost is total, but contribution margin can be in total and can be per unit. So you see how many options I have for contribution margin. On the fixed cost, I have only two options. Fixed cost can be per unit and in total. If I play with the fixed cost per unit, is that going to help me? What do you think? If I play with the fixed cost per unit, is that going to help me to get the break-even?
No.
No. So this is no here. Where is that? Let's see. Where will be the cross to cross it? Is there any cross here? Let's go with this one. This one is totally no. But I need it. I need to no, I won't be able to play with this. Let's get rid of this. Let's go back. Let's find another one. if I can insert something that shows you clearly that is no. Flowchart, quotient. I can get this one. And that will be totally no. Right, so I need fixed cost per total fixed cost. Now on the contribution margin, watch this. I have contribution margin per unit. I have contribution margin in total. I have contribution margin as a percentage. I have three options here. Now, which one I have to use?
Per unit or
So,
ratio?
per unit, okay, that is okay, I can use this one in total. Do I need it?
No, sir.
Not really. So I can easily flip this one here. No, total doesn't help me a lot. Plus a percentage, do I need it?
Yes.
Yes. So what's left in this formula? So if I get the only thing that I can use, that means I can use total fixed cost and per unit. Those two I cannot use it, and I can have total and the percentage. Those are the only two options that I can use, correct?
Yes.
Anything else I cannot use it. So let's see. Come on, what do you want? Reference isn't valid. What reference? I didn't put any references. Let's go back.
Professor, contribution margin total, how we cannot use that one?
Sorry?
Like the contribution margin total that we have obtained by dividing, like subtracting sales from variable cost, why we cannot use the total?
The contribution margin total, because you can use
Yeah.
the total, but I need total sales. In relation with the fixed cost, the total contribution margin doesn't help me.
Got it, got it.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So now I have something happen with my Excel spreadsheet. I did something which I'm not sure what I did, and doesn't let me go anywhere. Let's see, how can I get rid of this situation? Very fast. Okay, I guess I have to open another Excel spreadsheet. It's not gonna let me open another Excel spreadsheet. Something happened with the Excel spreadsheet, people, and I don't have solution at this point. Doesn't let me go anywhere. Anyway, I guess if I close it, cannot quit Microsoft Excel. Yeah, it's something weird to happen with the Excel spreadsheet. It doesn't let me continue. It doesn't give me any options. I think I pressed something which I shouldn't be pressing. Okay, there's a solution. Where's this problem? There's always a solution. Let's find the solution and get rid of this. Unfortunately, I have to do the. No, it doesn't even help me to save it. Let's get rid of this. If it doesn't want to work for us, we can get rid of it. Where are my tasks? Nice. There we go. Okay, and now I can open a new Excel spreadsheet and start over again with that Excel thing. Unfortunately. Oh, we have it saved. Or no, we don't. Sorry about this technical difficulty here. It's always like this when we are online. So let's go back to the whole idea here with the contribution margin. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Not this one. Let's go to the next one. And let's go back to our analysis. So now what we have this fixed cost, right? And then we said we need the contribution margin per unit. And we have a fixed cost and we need the contribution margin ratio. Those are the two that's going to help us to solve our problem. All the other combination, and now we need fixed costs in total. And those are the two combinations that I need to solve my problem. And if I have the first one, it's going to give me how many units I need to sell. And here is going to give me the total sales. Make sense? So that's why we need this combination. And you need then that combination for the total sales. Make sense?
So for the
Yes.
second one, the slides, what the slides had mentioned is break-even point in dollars.
Yes.
So is it like break-even point in dollars or total sales that we get as a
So question for you. How we measure total sales? What's a dimension that we're using to measure the total sales? What's the unit of measure for the total sales?
Oh, dollars.
Dollars. Can I measure total sales in any other units of measure?
No.
No. Make sense?
Yes.
Now, on the total sales are always dollars, right? But now the per units obviously will be unit of sales. Now, how many different dimensions I have for the units of sales? That's have so many many options here. It can be kilograms, can be kilometers driven, can be units produced, anything can be. Make sense? Hours work. That units to sell are the measurement of that units can be sold many different ways. But sales I can measure it only one way, as a dollar amount. So that's why the question always says sales dollar amount. Make sense?
Yes.
So let's go back to the slides. So here we have the contribution, which of the presents how the break-even point in units, fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit. And we got it. So next one. Let's keep going. Target operating income. How can I get the target operating income? Or how can I get the desired income that I want? Well, we have to do slightly modification of those two formulas that we just showed. In terms of, I need to add whatever I want to the total fixed cost. So I'm going to use the break-even as a starting point, but whatever I want, I'm just going to add it to the fixed cost and apply the same formula again. So let's see how this is going to work. Let's pretend this company wants to generate $120,000 and their contribution margin per unit is $200. How many units they need to sell? Well, get the fixed cost 200 plus 120, that's 320 divided by 200, it's going to give you 1,600 units. That if you want by number of units. Can I get it as a number of sales? Yes, we can. But for number of sales, we're going to using the percentage, means how much of, if I'm getting only 40% of the every dollar that I'm selling. How many dollars I need to be my sales in order to cover $320,000? Make sense?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, we're gonna go with the target income when we're adding taxes. That's become a little bit interesting. Obviously, at some point we have to pay taxes. So then we're gonna play with two operating incomes. One will be operating income before taxes. The other one will be operating income after taxes. Make sense? But that's never gonna change the way that how we're seeing the situation. That's one thing that you need to know. That's never gonna change the way that how we're seeing the situation. What that means, I'll show you just in a second. Let me do my modification here on the Excel spreadsheet. And okay, I'm almost done. And let's go now and start chasing and see what we can get. Let me share my screen with the Excel spreadsheet. Now, watch this. Again, let's start with the simple calculation of the operating income. Let's use our starting point from a few minutes ago when we have sales, variable cost, contribution margin, right? Are you guys with me?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, let's get this one because this is distraction now. We already know the contribution margin is sales minus the variable cost. Give me my first calculation. Let's put it here. Now, what's the operating income? How I'm getting the operating income? Give me the form of operating income. After,
Contribution margin less fixed cost.
so the operating income is equal to contribution margin minus the fixed cost, right? That's how I'm getting this point. So now let's plug the taxes. Let's go with the tax rate. Let's go with the taxes, tax expense. Right? Now for the tax expense, we need the percentage of the taxes, right? Otherwise, we won't be able to get it. Let's say we're paying 40% taxes. How much is my tax expense? $50 times 40%, $20 is my taxes. And after that, I'm gonna have after tax operating income. How did I get after tax operating income? That will be again calculation. This one minus $20, correct? How did I get after tax operating income?
Operating income minus tax expense.
Operating income minus tax expense. Make sense? After that, let's change a little bit. Tax is equal to, not this one, this one. Operating income after tax expense. So now, if we have to work backwards, what do you want? Do you want operating income or you want after tax operating income?
After.
After tax operating income. So now, if, let's say, let's use this example. This is the the scenario that we need, right? So now let's play with this scenario. This is per unit. If I'm selling per unit, that will be my structure. And I also can say this is my 100%, right? Contribution margin is how much? That's a percentage?
15.
50%. Variable cost? Obviously 50%. Now let's play with this and let's get, we already know the taxes, nothing else, tax percentage. And let's go with the fixed cost. My fixed cost is, let's say, let's getting some big number here, $5,000. Right? This is my structure of the current situation. This is my current situation. Now, what I need to do is to figure out where is my break-even point first. How can I calculate the break-even point? We already saw, right? So if I need, depends what I need, which break-even point I need. If I need break-even point as units of sales, I have to get my fixed cost divided by contribution margin per unit. If I need total sales, I have to get my fixed cost divided by contribution margin ratio. Make sense?
Yes.
So let's go with the total sales. Let's say I want break-even point in total sales. How much is gonna be? That will be equal to fixed cost divided by contribution margin ratio. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if we follow this, it's gonna be equal to, excuse me, 5,000 divided by 100. How much will be my total sales? This one, no, not 100. That will be number of units, right? Correct me here. I need here the 50%, right?
Yes.
I need to use this formula. I need to use the green formula, not the blue one, green one. So what will be that? That will be 5,000 divided by 50%. So my sales need to be 10,000 units to get the break-even point. Make sense? Are you with me, guys?
Yes.
Yes. 10,000 sales.
10,000 sales. So let's see the proof of this. Now let's see the proof. See, and I'm gonna paste it here. That's per unit. So now I'm selling 10,000 units. No, 10,000, it should be my total sales. 10,000, if my total sales are 10,000, means that my contribution margin here will be 50%, correct? Sales are 100%. So that means my contribution margin here will be 10,000 times 50%. My variable cost will be, obviously, that will be 100 minus 50. Gonna be 50%, so my variable costs are also 50%. So my contribution margin is 5,000. Fixed cost is also 5,000. Correct? My operating income here is how much? This one
0.
minus this one, 0. Now taxes, how much is the tax expense?
0.
0 times 40%, 0. My after-tax income is also 0. Sorry, tax people, but I'm not generating anything. Make sense? So if I produce one more unit, what's going to happen now? If I sell one more unit, what's going to happen? This $100 is going to come here,
100.
right? And then I have to start paying taxes. Make sense? So now, let's see that how much you want income. How much income you want? Give me a number of income that you want.
20,000.
20,000. So desired income equal to 20,000. What do we have to do? Let's keep using this formula. What do we have to do now? I have to add this 20,000 to the fixed cost. Correct? Are you guys with me?
Yeah.
If I add this, whatever I want, to my formula and apply the same formula, I'm gonna get it. So what do you have to do? 5,000 plus the 20,000 divided by 50%. And then here I'm gonna have 5,000 plus the 20,000. I don't have anyway 20,000. Let's go here. I'm gonna put it here. That in bracket divided by contribution margin ratio. So my desired income is 20,000. And I got what I wanted, correct? Now, if my sales are $50,000, then my operating income is gonna be 20,000. Let's see if that's gonna check. Get this part and flip it here. Right here. So if my sales on this point are $50,000, my contribution margin will be still the same 50%. I'm gonna cover my fixed cost. My operating income is gonna be $20,000. But is that what I'm getting?
No.
No. Why? Because I have to pay taxes. Make sense? So now the question is, so listen to me carefully here. How much my sales should be if my desired after-tax income, desired after-tax income, I want to be $20,000. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
Now I want this one to be $20,000. How much is this? I don't care. I want the bottom line to be $20,000 now. What do we have to do? Any suggestions?
Fill in after tax operating income as 20,000 and maybe multiply it by 40% to get operating income.
Let's see. So what you're saying?
Um,
Desired income,
yes,
income,
decide.
okay. And you say multiplying by?
So I mean 20,000, that is decide after tax
Yes.
income. You multiply by 40% to get operating income.
To multiply by 40%
To get operating income.
to get operating income. Okay, let's see if that's gonna happen. So now you're telling me that let's play on, we need only this calculation, correct? So basically I need this one. Only this part. Control C and I flip it here. Control V. So if I want here to see 20,000, correct? I want to see here to see 20,000. The question is, how much I have to see here? By knowing that my tax expenses are 40% of this amount. So if I get the desired income, which is 20,000, multiply by 40%, I'm going to get 8,000. So if I put here 8,000 and I have to pay 20%, 40% tax expense, that will be equal to this one times 40. Is it going to give me 20? What do you think?
No.
No. So that doesn't work.
We
I
have
need
20,000 divided to 60%. We will have operating income.
So okay, so there's another one. Now the desired
These are after
income
tax income. Yes.
Yes. Divided by how much? What you say?
60%.
60%. How did you get the 60%?
I have we will have operating income minus 40%, plus operating income will equal to after design after tax income. And
So if I do here desired income bracket 1 minus 40%, am I going to get 60%?
Same, 100% minus 40% will be 60%.
Okay, so that's how we're getting the 60%. Everybody understand this? Are you guys with me or no? Or you lost it?
Yes.
With you, sir.
Okay, so if I apply this, let's see what's going to happen now. I have desired income, which is 20,000, right? So let's see the formula. Now we're going to have 20,000 divided by 60%, or brackets 1 minus 40%. So if I get this number here, I'm supposed to have 20,000. Can you guys see it? So if I get 33,000,
Yeah.
$333, once I apply 40% taxes, I'm going to get 20,000.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean no? Am I getting 20,000 after taxes?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Sir.
So how is no? Make sense?
Yes.
So now that brings another question. Now I know how much my operating income should be, right? That's the implication of the after-tax income. So what we have to do, one more step. Knowing that whatever number you're getting here, knowing that operating income time minus bracket operating income time tax rate, it's going to give you after tax operating income. By knowing this and we're using this, we're chasing what will be the number of the operating income. Once I have this number, then that number I'm going to add it to my fixed cost, and I'm going to run the calculation. Make sense?
Yes.
So if you have to work, if somebody asks you now, at this point we're asking what will be if I want what was that? The 20,000. If I want 20,000, that's what you have to do. But if you want more, because at this point we're achieving only the $20,000. But that $20,000 doesn't transfer to the 20. So now if you want this number to be 20, then you have to play with this calculation, see how much the operating income that you want, that you need to achieve, and apply to the formula. So let's see, and apply to our formula and see how that's going to work. So technically, now I don't need to play here with the 20,000. I need to play here with the 33,000. Make sense? In this formula now I need to add 33.333. And once I do that and run the calculation, then it's going to give me the number of cells that I need to achieve as a dollar amount in order to get my operating income of $20,000. Does that make sense? So that will be the fixed cost, which is 5,000 plus 3333 divided by 50% contribution margin. Let's put those brackets here. And my operating income need to be 76,667. So if I plug here 7667, my variable cost will be 38,333. My contribution margin will be 38,333. My fixed cost is still $5,000, but that's give me operating income of 33,333 minus the tax expense is going to give me now after tax operating income of $20,000, which I wanted. Make sense?
Yes.
So if your desired operating income now is $20,000, now you have to do multiple calculations here. First, you have to come up with the operating income before taxes. And once you get the operating income before taxes, use that number in the formula to get the 20,000 that you wanted. Otherwise, you're not going to get it. Okay, let's stop sharing this and let's move to the slides. I'm sorry, I'm getting, I feel like sometimes I'm spending too much time on those things. I hope that that's helpful though, for you to understand that. So again, if we want after tax, we have to incorporate that the target income divided by 1 minus the tax rate, which is going to give us the operating income that we need to achieve in order to get the number, total number that we want. And once we apply this, we're going to get the 2,000 units. Now, if you run the formula, you're going to see if you have to do the entire calculation, do it at home and see if you get what you want. Now, let's go with this one. Let's apply this one practical question and let's apply the formula on what we learned right here. This company recorded net operating income of $51,000. Of the sales, 280. If the company variable cost was 60% of the sales, how much must be the fixed cost? So let's get this question and let's go to our Excel spreadsheet. And let's start thinking. Let's do the analysis here. Shall we do it together or you want to do it by yourself?
Together.
Together, yeah.
Let me share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
Yes, Professor.
Okay, so let's paste this question and see. Let's see what we know, what we don't know, or what we have to find out. We know that our sales are, we need a little bit insert here, percentages. We know that our sales are 280,000, correct? This number, I know it. What is the number here? What else I know? My variable cost, I know this is 100%, right? And I know my contribution margin percentage is equal to my sales percentage minus the variable cost percentage, those two. So what else I know? I know my variable cost percentage is 60%. Correct?
Yes.
I don't know this. I don't know this. Taxes, we don't need taxes here. So we can get rid of the taxes for the purpose of this calculation. So what else I know? My operating income is 51,000. Now the question is, how much should be my fixed cost? Before I go to the fixed cost, how much is my variable cost?
168,000.
60% of the sales, right?
Yes.
So this one times the 60%, it's gonna give me, oops, why is that? So let's go again. This one times 60%, 168,000, correct?
Yes.
How much my contribution margin? 112. So now the question is, how much must be fixed cost? Because operating income and getting at the contribution margin minus the fixed cost. I know my operating income, I know my contribution margin. Can I find my fixed cost?
Yes.
How much will be that?
61,000.
61,000. So you're telling me if I put $61,000 here, my contribution margin is gonna be 51,000? Let's check and see. Yes, it is. So what's the right answer?
Yeah,
Make sense?
B.
61,000.
Make sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's keep going. Margin of safety. Again, the margin of safety is the simple calculation between where you are compared to the break even. And that's gonna give you that cushion of reduction of the sales if something goes wrong without reaching the break even point. So the margin of safety again is where you are currently if the actual sales are $750,000 and then you know that the sales at the break even point are $500,000, your margin of safety is $250,000. Now that margin of safety can be expressed as a percentage, which will be the difference compared to where you are. So that means 33% is your margin of safety. Interpretation is your sales can drop with 33% before they reach the break-even point. Tell me, what do you think about this?
B.
B it is. not operating income. Don't get snowed by the operating income. It's sales exceed the break-even sales. Actual sales increase the break-even sales. So, analytical point is with the DHL Express. Let's see this one. Now, what's going to happen when we start changing the environment? First, company sales at this level. So basically, company sales tablets starts with current situation. They have unit sales price, variable cost, fixed cost, break-even sales, 900 or 360. So we have all those names. What's going to happen if they add a new piece of equipment to their production line? It will reduce the variable cost by 20. However, the fixed cost will increase with 60,000. This new equipment will be enable the company to add new feature to the tablets, resulting in the new sales of 450. If they go ahead, what's going to happen? This is the current situation. Now let's see what's going to happen. So what's going to happen? First, the sales price is going to change, right? How much will be the new sales price?
450.
The new sales price is 450. What else going to change?
Variable cost,
Variable cost. What we are doing, how much will be the new variable cost?
180.
Are we reducing it?
Yes.
Reduce the variable. So now we're reducing the variable cost 180. But fixed cost, we're going to go up. How much will be the new fixed cost? 240,000. Correct?
Yeah.
So if this happen, what's going to happen with the new break-even point? It's going to go up or it's going to go down? That's what we have to do. So how can we see this? Can I calculate from this, only from this information? How many units I need to sell? What do I need to get? How many units I need to sell? What do I need to add here? I need to add contribution margin per unit, correct?
Yes.
So how much my contribution margin in the first situation? 200, right?
Yes.
How much my contribution margin per unit in the second situation?
217.
Let's see if I get this one. Now I'm having 270,
70.
right? So how can I get my break even in number of units on the new situation? How much will be? 240 divided by 270, correct? How much you getting?
888.8.
888.8. But we said we're going to complete it to the first complete unit, 888. So is that better for us? Is it better for the company to reach the break-even point in 888 units compared to 900 units?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Why? Because we need less to sell. Make sense?
Yes.
So where will be the total sales? More than 360 or less than 360? Just by looking the numbers.
Less than.
Less than, say. Less than. Why? Because we're selling less products. Means, do you understand this? If I'm reaching the break-even point earlier, I need less sales to reach the break-even. If I'm reaching the break-even point later, I need more sales. Make sense?
Yes.
So let's see, 889 units, they're running on the next. So that means the break-even is gonna reduce from the current situation. Now let's see the sales mix. Company often sells more than one product. Now when we selling more than one product, what we're doing is the sales mix is constant, it doesn't change. Means that as a percentage, always gonna stay the same. So what that means is, let's see this company which selling two products. They selling smartphones and selling the TVs. And that's how it is. On the smartphone, give them $200 per unit contribution margin. TVs give them $500 contribution margin. Sales mix is they selling 75% from the sales coming from the smartphones and 25% comes from the TVs. And they have the fixed cost of 275. Now, how are we gonna get the break even? First, we're gonna calculate the weighted average contribution margin, which is 200 times 75 plus 500 times 75. And the weighted contribution margin for the sales of these two products are gonna be 275. After that, we're gonna use this 275 to get to the break even. So we're still gonna use the fixed cost, but not divided by the contribution margin per units, but a weighted contribution margin, which is 275 in this case. And we're gonna get the number of units that we need to sell is 1,000 units. What that means, 1,000 units. We need to sell 75 cell phones, 1,750 cell phones, and 250 TVs within this current sales structure. And only that way we're gonna have a break-even point. So when you see the sales mix, what you have to do is to, instead of getting the contribution margin per unit on the single unit, you need to go with the weighted average contribution margin for those two units that you're selling based on the proportion of the sale that you're having for those two items. Let's see this one example. Now to verify the numbers, how we're gonna verify the numbers? If we're selling 750 smartphones, we're gonna get $150,000. $150,000 that we're gonna go to the contribution margin. And if we sell 250 TVs with $500 contribution margin, that's gonna give us 125, total 275, which is equal to the fixed cost. And if we have to show it the way we show it, so now operating income will be greater contribution margin. Let's see if the fixed costs go to 300. So now fixed costs are $300. That's a different example. And we have the indoor plants and we have the outdoor plants. So what we have to do? We have to get the percentages. We're going to get the percentage of the total sales. So the total sales are 1 million. What's the percentage of the indoor plants? 20% of the total sales. What's the percentage of the outdoor plants? 80% of the total sales. Now we know the sales structure of those two items. We know the contribution per each item. Now we're going to get the weighted contribution, which is 40% times 20% plus 30% times 80%. That's going to give us contribution margin, weighted contribution margin of 32%. Once we get that 32%, we can calculate the break-even point in the total sales amount. Once we get the total sales amount, we can work out to see how much sales I need to generate from the first product and how much I need to generate from the second product in order to cover my fixed cost. And that's your proof of the calculation that with these sales, we're gonna generate $300,000 contribution margin, which is gonna cover our fixed cost and we'll be at the break even. Tell me what you think about this. I'm not gonna test you on the sales mix, that's why I'm going a little bit faster.
B.
B is the right one. Let's keep going. Now the cost structure, I think I explained to you last time, the cost structure is what will be the effect on the contribution margin ratio, effect of the break-even point and the margin of safety. And the cost structure is related of what's the combination between the variable cost and fixed cost in the company, means which company relies more on the variable cost and which company relies more on the fixed cost. Obviously, the contribution margin ratio on the company that have and the fixed costs are different. You can see the break-even point they're reaching at a different point of sales. But the question is, what will be the margin of safety of each dose of company? So that is the comparing one company versus the other company. Which is related to the operating leverage. And the operating leverage is simply calculated by contribution margin divided by operating income. And that operating leverage here for those two companies is going to give you, if we increase the sales with certain percentage, what will be the effect on our operating income. So the company with the low operating leverage, increase in sales going to generate small increase in operating income. And the company with the high operating leverage, they're going to have, for the small change in the sales, they're going to have a huge effect on their operating income. What do you think about this?
D, Professor.
D, Professor. Everything else doesn't seem logical. Only the one that makes sense, it will be D. And that will be end of this chapter. So I have one question here for you. Let's flip this one here. And the question would be, can you guys see this question?
Yes.
Okay, so that will be and the total fixed cost. Okay, a company sells product that has a unit sales price of $8.90, variable cost $6.40, total fixed cost $9.99. How many units the company need to sell to break even? That's very straightforward, isn't it? So we have $8.90 here, sales price, 8.90. We have, what else we have here? Variable cost 6.40. And our contribution margin is 250. And then we have fixed cost 99123. What do we have to use? Obviously, we have to use one of those formulas. Now the question asking for, what they're asking for, units of sales or total sales?
Units of sale.
Units of sales. Can you calculate it? You should be able to calculate this one.
Yes.
You have the fixed cost, you have the contribution margin per unit, you can easily come up with the answer here. That's not challenge here. Let's move to something more challenging. If there's something else challenging. Okay, let's see this question. There's another question here for you. Oh, this one. Okay. Let's make it equal here. So this company has sales of that much variable cost and fixed cost. The other company has that much variable cost, fixed cost. Contribution margin ratio is, so this company contribution margin ratio should be equal to what? So the question is, you have two companies, correct?
Yes.
And they ask you for the first company. Why do I need the first company to calculate do I need the second company to calculate the first company? This is my sales in the one. The variable cost is 429780. So let's get these percentages equal to this one divided by that one. And then we have the fixed cost, which is 23,123. That's one company, company one. And let's get the company two. Let's get this one out of here, put it here. And let's get this one again. Control C, Control V. And let's get the second company, 199123. And the fixed cost is 260,123. And now you have the answers for both. Now depends on which company they ask you. Be careful what they're asking for. Right? Depends on which scenario you are. So obviously, if that question asks you for the first company, that will be the first company, that will be the second company. What else we need here? There's another question here, interesting. Let's get this one. Can you guys see the question?
Yes.
Okay, so I don't need this one. I can get rid of those. So this company last year, they reported sales of 720 and the contribution margin was 30%. And the net loss was 24,000. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I have this. I don't know this. But I know this is 30%, correct? Can I get my variable cost as a percentage?
Yes.
How much will be that?
70%.
70%. Okay. So now, if I have the 70%, can I get my variable cost?
Yes.
This one time 70%. Do I have my contribution margin?
Yes.
Yes. If I know that I'm losing money, if I know I'm losing money, do I know how much my fixed cost is?
Yes, sir.
How much is my fixed cost? Is it gonna be above this number or below this number?
Above the number.
Above the number. How much above? 24,000 more, right?
Yes.
That will be 240,000.
Yes, sir.
So my fixed cost $240,000. So, and the question asks you for the total sales. So I have to use this formula. If I have this formula, can I find what my break-even point in sales is?
Yes.
Yes. You have the fixed cost, you have the contribution margin ratio. You can play with those and find it. Okay. Let's see. Let's see another one here. The other one will be, let's see this one. If the revenue is 450, break-even revenue is 200, fixed cost is 100. How much is margin of safety? So what I know, my current revenue is 400 revenue. Yeah, revenue is my sales, right? 450 is my sales, current sales. Now, I don't know anything about here. Nothing. I don't know anything about those. I only know my fixed cost is 100,000. That's all I know. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't even know where my income is. And this is my current situation. Now, at break-even point, my revenue is $200,000. Obviously, I cannot calculate anything else. I don't have any other information. That's all I know. But that's not the point because they chasing margin of safety. How much my margin of safety as a dollar amount? We comparing current situation versus the break even, correct? This is my current. This is the break even. So how much is my margin of safety?
215.
250. It's gonna be this one minus that one, 250. Okay, as a percentage, how can I get the percentage? 250 divided by what? The break-even or current?
Current 400,
Current, 450. Oops.
5%.
This one divided by that one, and put the percentage, and you're there. Make sense? If I ask you for more numbers, just expand the formula, you're gonna see it. Okay, anything else? This one sounds like the last question that I want to show you is sounds a little bit interesting. Let's see what we have to do here. That's a little bit longer question. Unit, so look at this. Okay, we have it. So what's happening? The following information for the company. So let's see what they doing. I don't need this one now. Let's get rid of this, and let's get rid of this. So what we have currently, we're selling 22,500 units. That's how much we're selling, right? My sales are $900,000. My fixed cost is 350, correct? And the break-even point is $700. So let's get the break-even. I guess we need the break-even. We don't know how many units is here. We know that break-even point is 700,000. And at this point, 350,000 is my fixed cost. If the sales price were to decrease by 5% and the variable costs will increase by 2, which one of the following is true? And you have some options here. That's interesting question, isn't it? So what we're chasing here is the sales price drop by 5%. Sales going down with 5%. And the variable cost increased by $2. By $2. What's gonna happen? Now, question for you. Can I get my sales price per unit?
Yes.
How much my sales price per unit?
$40.
This one divided by 22,500, correct? $40
Yes.
per unit. Okay. Now I don't know contribution margin, but and I don't know fixed cost, so that doesn't help me too much. correct?
Yes.
So what will be the new selling price? If it drop with 5%, what the per unit? Sales price per unit, how much will be the new selling price? 40 minus 1 divided 1 minus 5%, correct? Are you with me?
Yes.
That will be number, just a number. 3905. That will be a reduction of 5%. Or 40 of 90 times 95. So that will be the unit price. Now the variable cost. Am I missing something here? Fixed expense at this much and the break-even point is 700. So at the break-even, let's go with the break-even, people. Break-even, the break-even. If we know my sales price per unit, per unit, my sales price per unit is $40, correct? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
How much my contribution margin then of the break-even? If here I'm zero, how much my contribution margin?
350,000.
350,000. So 350,000. Do I know how many units I'm selling on the break-even now? How many units I'm selling on the break-even? Do I know my price per unit?
Yes.
Do I know how much my sales are?
Yes.
How
70
much?
and
How many
500,
units I'm selling? This one time
40.
divided by 40, right? So 70,500 units, correct?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So my contribution margin 350. As a percentage, how much my contribution margin?
50.
350 divided by 750, correct? 50%. If my contribution margin is 50%, how much my contribution margin current now? It's still 50, right?
Yes.
50%. So how much my variable cost as a percentage?
50.
50%.
50%. So with that, how much that give me the variable cost? 50 out of 40, right?
Yes.
How much my variable cost per unit? Come on, people. Variable cost per unit,
20.
$20. So $40 times 50%, $20. How much my contribution margin per unit? 20. How much here is my contribution margin per unit?
So 20.
20. And variable cost per unit, 20. Contribution margin per unit, 20. If I know this, how much my variable cost here? $450, right? How much my operating income here? This one minus this one,
100.
100,000. Okay. Now we start solving the puzzle, aren't we?
Yes.
Now we pretty much know everything that we need to know. We need more, contribution margin per unit. I know where I am. Now what do we have to start? We start playing with the situation. What's going to happen now? Let's go and let's copy this and start flipping the new information. What's going to happen now? My sales price going to go 39. Correct?
The sales price should be 38. The
38?
formula, yeah.
38. This formula is not equal, so that will be 40 times 0.95, right? $38, yes. So sales price is going down with 5%. From 42 down to 30. Make sense? From $40 down to $30. Are you guys with me?
Yes.
Now the variable cost from 20 goes down to it to
Increase.
what will be the new variable cost?
18.
Increase, isn't it?
22. Yeah.
So the sales price decrease, variable cost increase. So now that will be 22. So now let's see what's going to happen now. If now I don't know what my sales are. This one I don't know. This one I don't know. This one I don't know. Let's say we're selling 1 unit. If I sell 1 unit, actually let's leave those one. That will be equal to this one time that one. That's cross reference, okay. Equal to this one. Okay, too many cross references. Let's leave it the way it is. So now I know per unit. Where am I per unit? My sales price per unit is 38. My variable cost per unit is 22. My contribution margin is 60. Now let's calculate the percentages. 16 divided by 38 is 42. Make sense? Are you guys with me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have new contribution margin ratios, right? But what else we know? We know that the fixed cost stays the same. Correct?
Yes.
Now we don't know where will be the new sales because we don't know how many units we sell. The only thing from here, what we can get from here, we can get any of those. Correct? That's the only thing that we can get. Units to sell. How many units now we need to sell to get the break even?
350,000 divided by
350 divided by 16. Correct?
yes.
So that's how many units we need to sell. How about the total sales? 350 divided by 4211. That will be my total sales, correct?
Yes.
So do I know my units at the current situation for the break even? This is the break even. In the current, that is projected. That will be current. Do I know my current units that I'm selling for the break even? $17,500, correct?
Yes.
We already know that. Now, do I know my sales amount per dollar at the current situation?
Yes.
700,000. So what I can see the difference, right? Difference. What's going to happen now? I need to sell now more units. How many more? 400, and I need to have more sales. This one minus that one. So is this a favorable situation for me? Should I go and implement those changes? What are you saying based on this analysis here?
No, sir.
No, sir. Why? Because I'm increasing the break-even point. I need to generate more sales to come to the break-even. That means this income that I'm reaching right now, 100,000, I need way more units to sell. Make sense? So now, based on the question with the options available, you can easily come up with the answer. But now you see the logic, how you can extract from that limited information everything that we need to know in order to get some analysis on the situation that we want to go. Okay, I'm gonna post to this one, don't worry about it. And